he was touting about the importance of today's Republican Party of collective bargaining, which was a criminal act in the past to the Republicans. During the 2020 election, Jordan, roughly 50% of the people in this country voted for Trump and roughly 50% voted for Biden. The 50% who voted for Trump own 30% of the wealth in this country. The 50% who voted for Biden own 70%. So the Republican Party is now the party of the poor, the party of the working class, the working poor, of unions, and the Democratic Party has become the party of billionaires. Donald Trump chased the billionaires out of the Republican Party, and they've all gone over to chase the neocons out of the Republican Party. And I would also argue the Republican Party is now the party of true environmentalists. The fixation that, and this is the space that I came out of, and I got into, environmental work. I'm working for commercial fishermen on the Hudson River and then rivers all over the country, protecting habitat, protecting water, clean air, protecting our children against toxins. And it's endocrine disruptors. There's a chemical now, the second most used chemical in this country, a pesticide in this country, is atrazine. It's banned in Europe, banned all over the world, but we use it here. It's in 63% of our drinking water. There's a famous African-American scientist named Tyler Hayes, who's at the University of Berkeley. He did a famous experiment that anybody can look up on the internet. And he put 70 African water frogs in an aquarium. He put atrazine in the water of that aquarium that was less than EPA's level. So it's less than the levels we have in 63% of our water supply. 60 of those frogs became sterile. They're all male frogs. 60 became sterile. 10% of those frogs turned female, and they were able to produce fertile eggs. So it changed their sex. And of course, normally, when you see something like that in an animal model, the first thing you want to do is test it in a mammalian model and then a human model. Those tests were never done. So we don't know what impact it's having on our children, if any. But I think those studies ought to be done. And there was a really unbelievable moment poignant moment during the Democratic National Convention when Chris Cuomo points up into the bleachers of the arena, where the convention was taking place, and there was these high seats, the owners' boxes up in the upper rim of and he said, those are the boxes that are cost $1 million, $1.5 million to be in that box right now. And those are the big donors, the Democratic Party, the corporate donors, the BlackRocks, these kind of groups that are up there, the military industrial, the big pharma. He said, we don't even know who they are, but they're the ones that are making all the decisions here on the floor. And, those are the people that ultimately anointed Kamala Harris, who I don't think is, I don't want to be mean-spirited, and I've been very disciplined about not name-calling. To me, it's a disqualifier to be president of the United States if you don't believe in freedom of speech. And Vice President Harris has repeatedly said that the First Amendment is a privilege, not a right, that the government has a duty to censor what she calls misinformation and disinformation, that's not protected by the First Amendment.
That's a very dangerous word, misinformation.
First of all, the First Amendment protects all speech. It protects lies. It protects, it was passed not to protect convenient speech, but to protect the speech that nobody wants to hear. And when the government takes upon itself the right to decide what's true and what's not true, then you have a totalitarian system, because of course it's going to, and we saw this during COVID, where the government was really the biggest propagator of misinformation, of factually inaccurate information, that it then uses the control of information to manipulate the public. And by the way, protecting lies is important, because a lot of the assumptions that we have about life and policy and politics and war and peace and the economy started out that now we believe as consensual truths, started out as hypotheses or suppositions that people considered dishonest or lying or wrong or erroneous or misinformation back then. The whole process of democracy is a dialectic in which, new ideas that are unpopular, that appear manipulated and dishonest, challenge existing realities. And in that dialectic, in the furnace of debate and of dialogue, of conversation, these ideas are annealed. And in a true democracy, functioning democracy, they rise in the marketplace of ideas and become policies if they survive that process.